Welcome to the podcast from HeadHunters Northwest. HeadHunters Northwest, specialized recruiting, specialized approach, where we take you behind the scenes into our customers' businesses. For over 20 years, HeadHunters Northwest has served the global defense, small arms, and shooting sectors worldwide. Listen in as we discuss the inner workings of our USA and international customers. HeadHunters Northwest, finding you the best heads for business.
Okay, welcome everyone. This is Shaylene Kiner with HeadHunters Northwest podcast. It's been a little while since I recorded something. I got on my every Tuesday recording, and then October came and I got hit with a cold and laryngitis. And so luckily Larry and I had set this up a while ago, and then we needed to postpone, which was a blessing because I needed to get my voice back. And it's not perfect, but welcome, Larry Diffey. And Larry is the owner and CEO of Centerfire Digital.
Digital, yes, Centerfire Digital.
And you guys listening or watching this, you should look it up while we're talking, centerfiredigital.com. And that way you can follow along, because Larry has a really unique business that anyone who is in the firearms industry, defense industry, anything related to that is pro 2A I would think, be interested in possibly talking to Larry, because his company is looking for customers that he shares these values with. And one last thing, Larry is a veteran, a Marine Corps veteran. And so we have a great American, and I'm just honored. Thank you for being on the podcast with me, Larry.
Thanks for having me on, Shaylene.
I really appreciate you taking the time to share with us, because as a business owner, I've hired lots of individuals and companies to help me with my back end IT work, because I'm a great recruiter, but I'm not a great IT person. And when I learned of you, I was so excited, because it's really hard for us to find people who agree with what we're doing and help us in a way we need help. I mean, look at the banking, for instance. Banking has shunned firearms related companies, and your company focuses on that.
So about a little over a year ago, October of last year, well, a little before that, I started realizing that 85% or so of the people that do what we do, meaning all the tech stuff that we do, all lean left to some degree, and that there was a niche to be filled there, because you don't want people that aren't at least nominally aligned with your values, much less being completely against them, with their hands in your tech stack, because it's a dangerous place to be. Your mission critical systems, your data, all of it, your communications. Nobody wants those people that they can't trust in their systems. Just like I would imagine some anti-gun group wouldn't hire me to do their stuff because they would feel they wouldn't have a reason to trust me. The opposite is true as well.
Yeah.
So I started Centerfire Digital with the notion of only ever using US-based developers and technicians, obviously all values aligned, all pro Second Amendment, etc. And it's been really interesting so far. I've met a lot of great people. I had a booth at the Goals Convention. That's the Gun Owners of America convention in Knoxville back in August. Met a lot of awesome people there. There's a lot of need for what I do. One of the things that I found is a lot of companies haven't embarked on projects because they don't feel like they can find reliable people that they can trust in order to do these projects. So they just think, well, no, all these techs are leftists. We're not going to be able to find them. So they don't even look. Yeah. So
that's a good point.
It's a problem, especially firearms should not be a political issue, but obviously they are. It's here to stay. It's not going to get depoliticized anytime soon. And so I'm here for the duration.
I would think that, ever since we started talking about doing this podcast, one of the things that I wanted to mention to you is I would think the marketing professionals in our industry it would be great to meet them and partner with them. So I know that I'm connected with a lot of marketing pros, And I would say that Larry could be, another person to bring into your tool chest, because marketing people need IT help plenty of times. And it doesn't mean they're not IT savvy, but wouldn't it be great to have somebody in your corner that could help you explain things that are going on with e-commerce, because you touch that too.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. One of the things about where I can intersect with marketing is marketing people need data.
Yeah.
And a lot of websites, e-commerce sites, or even other types of online salespeople, salespeople do things that salespeople are doing in the field, things that are happening in their factories that salespeople can use to present to their customers. Like, oh yeah, look, I can check stock on this. I can check estimated production time in the field. And if you don't have those things set up, you don't have the data, you can't do your marketing. I can set up analytics on the back end, like deep dive into analytics and business intelligence that these companies can use to improve their target marketing. For example, on an e-commerce website, page clicks are not enough. Button clicks are not enough. Looking and saying, oh, hey, has this person gone 5 times to look at this item and still haven't bought them? Well, let's email them a coupon, or let's pop something up on the screen for them, right? Marketing people may not be able to get those analytics to the point of being able to do those things.
Yeah.
Whereas I can handle all that technical side and then just let them make the decisions on what to do with the data.
Okay, so you seem to have kind of a lot of real personality for a geek. So how did you ever get into this? I mean, for people thinking there's a lot of them, the people that are in the closet doing the things we need them to do, but you are front facing, vocal, and have a lot of personality. Matter of fact, I mean, I think that I remember you saying that some of your social media got a hand slap because of your vocalness or your messaging. But how did somebody who's really a paper person and vocal get into this?
I guess so my formative years in tech were all in IT, but it was things like desktop support and always interacting with customers. And I've always liked being around people and interacting with them. So I don't know, I guess,
Great.
And I am a rare breed. A lot of techs I know, programmers, they don't want to deal with people the way I do. My CTO, for example, great guy's an absolute genius. He would, like at the GOA convention, for example, being 12 hours on the floor and walking around talking to all these other vendors, he'd be done with it after about 2-3 hours.
Yeah.
Right. Some people and that's fine. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. It's personality differences and things like that. I guess I'm just more of an extrovert. I like to talk to people. I like to debate with people. Right now on LinkedIn, most of my content is political. And I do that for a reason. First of all, it's just fun. Even if I was a janitor somewhere, I would be doing all this political content. But it also lets people know who I am and the people that I want to do business with. And the great thing about what I've done so far for me is it's very satisfying, because the conversations I have with my clients and my potential clients, it's like, oh, you're not supposed to talk about politics and religion, right? When you're dealing with business. And half the time, that's what we spend the first 30 minutes talking about.
Yeah.
And it's great.
And why not? Why not? Because we've gotten away from just agreeing to disagree. How will we ever expand our world if we don't visit with people we don't agree with?
Exactly. And I'm not a corporate speak Dilbert drone type person, right? Even when I was working in corporate environments, I just talk to people. People are people, and I have conversations, and I don't have to want to have to walk on eggshells around my customers and worry about offending them and all that nonsense. I'd just rather not deal with it. So basically, I just refuse to do business with those people who are diametrically opposed to my values, because there's nothing in it for me. I mean, sure, I could make some money, but I feel like I would have to sell out. It's like, oh, hey, what's your DEI policy? No, we don't have one.
Yeah.
Well, and it's not just that. It's, oh, you do gun stuff too? Ew. Right. And then I have to worry, like, okay, well, how long before they decide they just don't like me and no, we don't like you, we're going to get rid of you.
Yeah.
right? Not for
You're
anything
looking to build
related.
a deeper relationship with your customers than transactional.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And so I like having conversations. Part of the way that I do business to find out what my customers need is through conversations, digging in and finding out what they really need. Initially, most of the people that come to me and say, "Oh, we want this," 95% of the time, it's not what they need. And sometimes what they actually need is way cheaper than what they thought they wanted.
That's
I
great.
mean, it goes both ways, right? If somebody
Yeah.
says, "Oh, I need this, 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 and this," I'm like, "Well, you can do this over here for a couple of grand instead of spending 50,000." Okay,
Yeah.
fine, But on the other hand, when I start digging in with a customer and finding out what they're actually trying to accomplish, it's usually not what they initially thought they wanted. And
I
that's
think
just
that's
because,
true of a lot of professionals and consultants that are really good. They come in and listen to their customers like you, and they assess what they think that the customer's saying, and then are bold enough to say, I heard what you said. Here's what you said, but here's what I recommend, even though it's a different variation. And really, here's why. And
right.
that is what a consultant is hired for, because you're an expert in this area.
It is. And if you go say, so let's say, "Oh, I need some tech stuff done. So I'm going to hire some overseas company," right?
Right. How do you have any control over that?
They're not going to have that same business conversation with you to see if what you're trying to accomplish makes any sense for you.
Yeah.
I don't want to just sell people a tech solution to something, right? I want to get deeply involved in their business and help them do things the correct way.
Yeah.
In a way that makes sense, in a way that either makes them money, saves them money, or both.
Yeah.
Otherwise, there's no sense doing anything at all.
Exactly. So when you're in, where do you hail from? Where is your home? Where do you live?
Well, most of the time I'm in Texas, but
Okay.
I'm going to be out here in Tennessee probably till the spring, kind of out in the middle of Tennessee. It's really nice out here. We just got out here over the weekend and it is beautiful out here.
That's great. And so you service customers anywhere in the US, really anywhere, because
anywhere, right? Because
it doesn't matter. Your work you can do anywhere.
Correct. Mostly what we do is coding. Early next year, we're going to launch an MSP, managed service provider, which what that means is we can do all your remote desktop support, servers, emails, printers, devices of any kind managed on your network, and firewalls, security, all your internal stuff. And then we'll find people on site that can go on site in other, in various areas across the country for when actual on-site help is needed. But for the most part, 90% of what IT does for people is not on-site.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. What do you call it again? Managed service
Provider, right?
It's got to be huge.
It is. And there's cybersecurity aspects, there's authentication stuff, there's all the Office 365 and cloud services, and all the tech support. Oh, hey, my antivirus needs updating, right?
Yep.
And once again, with the US based people, all the people that are going to be touching those systems and doing remote control and all that, all US based, all veterans as much as possible. That's not always entirely possible, but
look at all the challenges small business has. I know lots of our manufacturers, primarily just, the defense industry by and large is larger, has some larger customers, but not all of them. The majority of our businesses, whether it be defense, shooting sports, or firearms related, the manufacturers are not very big.
No, not really.
They need help on basic level stuff. They need help on IT. They need help on security. How do I secure my CRM system from, when you have salespeople coming through? And, there's even, I've heard of some marketing people that feel like, and I don't know, haven't decided yet if this is generational, maybe or not, but there's a lot of debate about, does the mail order list, the email list, does that belong to the marketing person who built it, or does it belong to the business where they worked? And a lot of these lists are getting scraped and sold. And
Well,
there's
yeah.
a lot of stuff in the background that your business owner who started up a manufacturing company, it never even occurs to them. So having
Sure, because
the back end would be huge.
right. So I've visited a couple firearms manufacturers and accessory people and things like that. And one of the things I find, and this is small businesses in general, not just firearms, they start their businesses, and especially manufacturers. They're engineers, they're enthusiasts in whatever they're manufacturing, and they figure out the business as they go. Right. It's like, we've got, all these different things now we're paying for and these services, and we've got all these computers, and they really don't have a good grasp of their own infrastructure.
Or
they grow fast. Their processes are out of whack, so things are taking them longer. There's not good communications in the manufacturing stage.
Yeah.
So there's really three different ways communications happens. There's system to system, right? There's system to people and people to people. And what I do is I streamline those systems, all of them, the people systems, the computer systems. Great technical systems are awesome as long as they work for people.
Yeah.
Right. You can't dehumanize the process and expect people to be pigeonholed into these technical processes. I mean, sometimes you have to retrain them and say, oh, here's what we're doing now. But you can't turn people into robots that will perfectly execute a technical system. You have to allow for those people to have some human error and things, while maintaining security, while maintaining, it being robust and like a source of truth and correct. But there's a lot that can be done that most of these companies, it just doesn't occur to them because they have a hard time looking at their own processes objectively, because it's all they know. It's what they built, little piece by piece. For example, one of the things I've run into with a lot of small businesses that have gotten really busy is that most of their businesses run on this morass of Excel spreadsheets. Excel is awesome. Don't get me wrong. Excel is an incredible tool, but people torture Excel into doing things it was never really meant to be good at. So what I do a lot of times, I will take their Excel spreadsheets and turn it into an actual application where the data is all searchable, where the data is consumable, and they get a better idea of what's actually happening with their data from that, right?
Dashboard saves them money and makes them money.
Dashboards, analytics, what's happening on their floor. They might have to wait till the end of the day or a couple of days for stuff to get input to find out how many pieces Station 12 produced. Right. Well, I can change that. I can make all that real time. Where are your bottlenecks? Where are your processes getting stuck? Are you having resource problems? Are you having people problems? Are you having communication problems? Where are things getting stuck and slowed down? If you don't have the data and can't read that data, you don't know. A lot of years ago, I did a project for an aerospace company out in Southern California, and they had 5 different Microsoft Access databases that their engineers had written. This company makes, like defense industry, aerospace stuff, right? And they had data going into these databases and no meaningful way to pull it back out because they weren't constructed properly.
Oh.
And I mean, fortunately, because it's FAA and defense industry, they had all the paper backup. So they didn't actually lose anything. But they were missing out in $15,000 to $20,000 a month in billing.
Wow.
Because they couldn't pull data back out in a meaningful way, because it was going in, but they didn't know how to get it back up. And this is shop floor data collection stuff, not rocket science.
Yeah.
They just didn't know they were doing it wrong.
Yeah. Well, people don't know because they don't do what you do every day. And those processes it's mind-boggling the money that it makes them when the processes go smoothly and they get the data. It's just mind-boggling. I mean, it is truly dollar for dollar. It's such a great investment, even though I think that we used to look at it as a cost center. It truly is not that. It truly is the way to save and make money in the most meaningful ways.
Oh, it is. And there's so many more ways to you can never have too much data. You just have to know how to read it.
Yeah.
And there are so many more tools now. For example, even in a low-tech manufacturing environment, like let's say there's a company that's making gear, like shooting gear and, jackets and armor plates and things like that, like hard manufacturing, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's all kinds of sensors and communication methods that can be put in place to help those processes, even when the people know what they're doing. One of the risks in manufacturing is losing institutional knowledge.
Yes.
And when people leave, that knowledge goes with them, and the company leadership might not realize how much institutional knowledge is lost until it's gone, and suddenly some things aren't getting done, and they have to go figure it out.
Yes.
The more data you have, the more that mitigates that problem. You can't remove it entirely, but you can put SOPs in place. You can do things like that and get good business continuity. And it's just a very necessary thing.
When companies have talent that changes, so when someone leaves or someone is asked to leave, I have seen that be a significant problem for security in our manufacturing companies, because it's not set up to protect and shield the company. And I would think it goes right along with cybersecurity. These would be things you could come in and assess the risk before that was a problem, right?
Right. I can go in, I can assess a risk, I can look at all their processes, I can talk to other people. And this goes back to being an extrovert, right? I dig in and ask questions. Yeah. What are you doing? Why are you doing it? Sometimes people feel a little threatened by that because they think I'm going to completely upset their job, and that's never my goal. But if you're doing a bunch of work that doesn't need to be done because it can be automated, well, then you can just focus on things that make the company more money.
Yeah.
Right. And that secures your job. It doesn't threaten it. And that's a little hard for some people to understand, right? It's like, oh, hey, management is sending these people in, so I've got to protect my little fiefdom here.
Yeah.
So that happens occasionally, but most of the time it's okay.
And the back end stuff, when you're talking about, you've got laptops everywhere, you've got salespeople traveling all over. I would think it seems so simple, but it's not simple. You're giving people access to your systems, and they need to have access to your customer data information and to your billing. But I would think you could go in and assess that and say, hey, are these systems safe? If this person leaves their laptop on a plane somewhere, how do we shield the company from that? Because accidents happen, and you've got, all of these are computers, as you know better than me. I can't even imagine the threats that our companies face, even though by and large, I think we have a great group of people that work for us. Accidents happen.
Accidents happen. Intrusions happen. There are people looking to sabotage you. Mm-hmm. There are people looking to put you out of business in the firearms industry because of, and that's only get worse. So we're recording this before the election, so we don't know exactly what will happen.
Yes, right. Good point. Yes, isn't that interesting? Won't we look back and wonder why we didn't talk about something? It's the 4th of November today.
And honestly, no matter what happens tomorrow, the polarization is only going to increase.
Yes, I agree.
Right. So I'm assuming that I'm just going to prognosticate here. I honestly think Trump is going to win about 325 electoral votes. And that's even with all the potential cheating. So,
well, let's hope. I hope so, but I also hope we don't have civil unrest. And I hope that I really would love to see us get back to a country where we help each other. I'm not all about saving everybody, but I am about teaching people how to take care of themselves, because the government has never been intended to care for us.
No, absolutely not.
Taking care of ourselves.
Any government that is set up to take care of you can also just as easily destroy you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they will. There are even.
Well, you just look at history.
And it doesn't matter which political party is in charge when it comes to that sort of thing. There are a lot of differences between the parties currently, but there are some things that are just government and that never works out in anybody's favor. The ATF shouldn't exist. Shall not be infringed means something. Yeah. If you look at things like the Bruin decision and the Heller decision over the last few years, the NFA shouldn't exist. The 1968 Gun Control Act shouldn't exist. In a sane world, those would just be wiped out. And it's like, okay, well, you can start over, but it all has to conform to text, history, and tradition, right?
We need to get less government and more responsibility individually, and
right.
But digress all the way about our families and our households.
Half the country doesn't seem to want to do that.
Yeah.
Right. So regardless of what happens tomorrow, November 5th, for everybody that's already happened, things are going to get worse, more polarized. There's going to be, people are just going to be losing their minds. Right.
I sincerely hope not. I can't say that I disagree.
I don't want it to happen. I just think it's inevitable. And things are going to get worse in the polarization aspects of things before they get better. At some point, things are going to swing back the other direction and go, look, we all got to work together.
Yeah.
I don't know what that's going to take, but
yeah,
that's not happening this year.
Yeah. Well, I'm afraid you're right about that. That we can agree on.
Right.
I think that it's very, very important that we work with and we spend our money as business owners supporting other business owners, because even if it's a publicly held company and its shareholders, by and large, most of our businesses are privately held. And it's really important we put our money where our mouth is. And I know for me, it's critical, because if we don't support each other, just the banking example alone, I just moved banking, and that is a huge nightmare of a job.
It is.
And I went out of my way to make sure that they were firearms friendly and pro manufacturing, U.S. manufacturing, because not all banks are.
I have talked to a number of firearms retailers whose payment systems think they're just selling sporting goods.
Yeah.
Right. Because I got a call from a guy about a month or so ago. He had somebody building him a website to sell guns, right? Just an online firearms retailer. And they were building him this site on this hosting not just a hosting platform, it was a whole builder system. And it'd been taking forever. So it's like, oh, here's what they've done so far. Tell me what you think. Because he was thinking I should just take over, right? And I went and looked at the policies of this web builder. It's a whole e-commerce system, et cetera. And it very clearly states in the terms of service, no firearm sales. Explicitly. So all the work this other company had done was for absolute nothing. And now he's just a small business guy, right? This is a side gig for him that he was getting set up. So now he's got to go try to recoup all that money from these people that they took too long to do anything with anyways. But even if they had gotten it up and running, at some point, could be a week, it could be 6 months, they would shut him down and he would literally have to start over.
That's heart-wrenching. And small business does not have, millions and millions and millions of dollars set aside for, oops, we made a mistake. Right.
Yeah. Now you got to retrench. So there's a lot of companies using Shopify for their e-commerce. Mm-hmm. So obviously Shopify doesn't allow firearm sales, but also because they're not 2A friendly, do you want to use them for anything else?
Right. Exactly.
Right.
That's my thought. Try to find vendors that work together, because good vendors that are 2A friendly seek to work with other 2A vendors, and we should have a great network. And this is why I wanted to have you on the podcast, because I want my audience to know that they have you as an option. There is a company out there that has developers that can build these things for you, that you don't constantly have to cringe. When are they going to dump me? When are they going to fire me? Because these are things that affect every part of your business. I mean, IT touches everything.
It does. It's mission critical. Yeah. And I also know how to mitigate the risks that they may not even know exist.
Yeah. Very important. Yeah. So when someone calls you, so they can reach you, I want to make sure people know, and we'll put the link up on our website, YouTube, Spotify, and iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, everywhere. But it's centerfiredigital.com, just like it sounds.
Yep.
And you can reach Larry there. His number's posted. They have an info page that you can fill out, contact us. And also, Larry's company is on LinkedIn. You can look up Centerfire Digital on LinkedIn. And Larry has a profile on LinkedIn until they let him, not be on there again.
If you can't find me on LinkedIn, it's because they canceled me. But
right. But you can be found on your website.
Yeah, I can be found on my website, and as far as I know now, I'm the only Larry Diffey in the world, so I'm pretty easy to find.
That's great. Well, I really appreciate you being on this podcast. I think it's so important, and I know it's taken us a little bit to get this going, but I really want to support other business owners that are supplying valuable tools and resources that the customers that I serve certainly need. So thank you, Larry, very much for being on the podcast.
You're welcome. I appreciate you having me on. Looking forward to maybe doing it again one of these days.
Oh, yeah, you can count on it. All right. That's it for the HeadHunters Northwest podcast, and we'll see you again next time.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the HeadHunters Northwest podcast. Specialized recruiting, specialized approach. You can reach out at HeadHuntersNW.com or call 605-600-1709. Join us again next week as we look behind the curtain into the global defense, small arms, and shooting sectors. HeadHunters Northwest, finding you the best heads for business.